I tried Path of Exile 1 after 1,000 hours of Path of Exile 2. Okay, it's going to be kind of interesting seeing somebody who goes from PoE 2 to PoE 1. I saw this right here. This is Jungrone's tweet the other day. I accidentally logged into PoE 1 for 5 minutes and ran 4 maps. And I don't know if I can log back into PoE 2 again. Like, the PoE 1 in-game is giga addicting for sure. So I'm curious how somebody who played Path of Exile 2 for 1,000 hours and then tries Path of Exile 1, like, what does he actually think about the game
All right,
getting into it?
let's get this out of the way. I've never played Path of Exile 1. I never beat the campaign, I never ran a map, and I never even crafted a single item. Fast forward to 2025, and now I'm a certified PoE 2 addict. I'm over 1,000 hours deep since launch. Naturally, over time, I started to wonder, if PoE 2 is this fun, how good was the original? So
Really
I went
good?
back into the belly of the beast. No build guides or tutorials, completely blind.
Chad,
to see
that's
what
the way
I've
to do
been
it.
missing out on this whole time. All to bring you the most accurate first impression I could. My goal in this experience is to give PoE 1 the fighting chance I never gave it before. Complete the campaign, hit level 80, clear some maps, craft some items, ascend a few times, and poke around in the secrets of the Atlas expansion. All while relying
full clear.
only on what I've learned in PoE 2. What I found? Let's just say it wasn't what I expected at all. This is my brutally honest, slightly confused, and occasionally terrified journey through Path of Exile 1.
Let me guess. I'm just going to predict it. He doesn't like it.
A story told through the eyes of a PoE 2 player who thought he was ready. I wasn't. After downloading the standalone client and launching the game, I was faced with the first and most important decision you have to make in an ARPG. What
You got to pick the Marauder. Marauder is the only correct decision here.
class should I play? I picked the Mercenaries League and SSF because Pain builds character.
True.
But at the character select screen, I was surprised. No class info, no descriptions, nothing. Just vibes. I went with the Marauder,
Just
who looked like the classic warrior type.
Correct move.
I named him First Time Freddy, and I jumped right in. I woke up on the beach and got hit by something immediately. Absolutely terrible graphics. I was playing on a gaming laptop with a 3070, and this game looked like Diablo 3 in 2013. I almost uninstalled right then and there, and 10 minutes of tweaking my graphics settings didn't help. But I was committed. So
Yeah, this has got to be a bit of a slap in the face. You go from PoE 2 graphics, which is like best in genre, easily best looking ARPG. Then you go to PoE 1. This is going to be like, oh my god.
pushed on, eyes bleeding, shuffling down the beach. The click to move controls took a minute to get used to, but 2 decades of Diablo 2 muscle memory kicked in, and I got adjusted pretty quickly. The tutorial was pretty standard. Kill zombies, loot, learn about skill gems, and fight a boss. Which I
And
totally
even those videos, didn't they add the videos back into PoE 1 after they added them into PoE 2? I think those videos are new, if I remember.
didn't die to, and killed without getting hit once. After reaching town, updating my drivers, and restarting my laptop, it magically fixed the visuals. Now the game looked surprisingly great. The NPCs were impressively voice acted, adding character.
Hey, Exiles. I just got back from a nice quick trip to Canada with my family.
Then came a big shock. No gold except for gambling.
The talkative tribe.
The economy and trading with
cameo.
NPCs utilizes currency items only. My inner SSF hoarder kicked in hard, picking up and selling everything like a true loot goblin.
Oh no.
Oh, and I have to point out this huge win. All of my stash tabs and cosmetics from PoE 2 carried over to Path of Exile 1. Massive respect to GGG for this. At first, I was a little confused by the flasks. 5 slots,
Oh no, the 5 potions, like trying to understand what's
each
going on.
with different uses. But soon I appreciated the customization. The Quicksilver flask was a game changer.
Okay, now he's going to be going back to PoE 2 and be trying to spam like the 3 button to use the Quicksilver flask. He's going to get used to it way too quickly.
Especially paired with Leap Slam. I wasn't sold on the skill gem and socket system though. It felt a bit clunky
True.
and added quite a bit of friction when I was trying to experiment with new skills and support gems. There's quite a bit to say here about this, but we'll come back to this later. The new mercenaries reminded me of a better version of Rogue Exiles in Path of Exile 2. As an SSF player, I refused to hire them, so naturally, I killed them all for their loot. And sometimes, they killed me. Hardcore would have been brutal. Overall, my first impressions were pretty solid. Generally speaking, PoE 1 feels like PoE 2 on crack. Faster, louder, and way more chaotic. By level 6...
What video was it where the guy was like, PoE is the answer to what if meth had a skill check? That seems about right.
I was leap slamming through mobs, chugging my Quicksilver flask like a drunken maniac, and nuking packs with a massive Sunder hit. Which I must admit feels so much better than the PoE 2 version.
He's using, of course it does, Sunder in PoE 1 feels fucking awesome. He's using the correct character with the correct skill. He's already miles ahead.
It's safe to say I was having fun, and armed with only my extensive PoE 2 knowledge, I blinked into this intimidating game blindly with relative ease.
I'm curious how much, I hope he gets into it, because I want to know how much of playing PoE 2 prepared him for PoE 1. Because people are always saying PoE 2 is the perfect, tutorial for PoE 1. And there, like he has already showed, the link and skill gem system is not exactly one-to-one the same. They don't even have, chromas in PoE 2. So, there is things other to learn. But I'm curious how much of that information actually transfers, because myself and most other people, would have gone from PoE 1 to PoE 2 as opposed to PoE 2 backwards. I'm assuming a lot of people that play PoE 2 just decide, I just to play PoE 2. They don't even bother trying PoE 1, which would make sense.
Now, I hate to say this, but after 10 acts, the campaign felt like a marathon.
That's not Grandpa, that's just dehydrated.
It was a slow grind where I kept asking,
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
The early acts flowed nicely, and I was having fun learning the game, completing quests, and familiarizing myself with the systems. But by Act 6 or 7, fatigue hit. Environments blurred, the story
Don't worry, buddy, you only got 4 more acts to go.
felt like background noise, and bosses and monsters
This game
lacked
has a
memorable
story?
mechanics. Content was abundant, but the structure felt repetitive.
He's just
It
standing
was
in
like
place all the
scrolling
attack
through
you
the
would,
massive
Chad.
skill tree, but every branch just led to a slightly different version.
Wait, hold on. His tree's not even bad. Dude, first time tree, it's not even that bad, dude. Honestly, look, he's got jewels even. Now, surely this is B-roll. He's even got cluster jewels.
Of Fireball. It also didn't help that I was over-leveled most of the way, so the campaign was easy except for a few bosses. This just happened naturally too, by just playing the game and completing the main story and side quests. Bosses were also very underwhelming for the most part, and I finally understood why people compare them to glorified rares. There were some pretty epic moments, like Malachi or Kitava, for example,
Okay, yeah,
but the
fuck
vast
Malachi.
majority didn't follow suit.
Yeah, it just killed him to fall
Still,
over. Yeah.
the campaign forced me to interact with core systems, vendor recipes, currency, items, and skill gems, all of which were valuable for SSF play. I also found some pretty sweet unique items that I equipped, which provided my character
Wait, you get the worm sign. Socketed gems are supported by level 5 concentrated effect. Life, armor, rampage, and max endurance charges. All right, I mean,
with some interesting abilities during my campaign playthrough. However, I felt like the constant introduction of League mechanics throughout the campaign distracted from the story, making the narrative feel secondary and making the campaign feel more like a giant tutorial for all of the various endgame systems and mechanics.
dude, the campaign is only there to get you to maps, my dude. The maps is when the game begins. The campaign itself is 100% a tutorial to play the real end game for sure. I guarantee you 80-90% of the long-term PoE 1 players don't even know what the fuck the story is in this game.
I also wish that the crafting bench appeared earlier. It felt too hidden until too late. More obvious early nudges would have helped, or just having the bench in each of the town hubs from the start would have been nice. Ascending via the labyrinth was interesting. I appreciated the small hidden trials within the various campaign zones,
I love the lab.
which created a sense of
Okay, playing PoEs too, like Trial of Suck My Ass and the Chaos Trials, made me appreciate the lab ascendancy system. Like, how many of you guys, when you played the PoE 2 Ascension, was like, I kind of miss lab a little bit? As first of all, with Zaro, best voice acted character in the entire game, other than the Abyss Shambler, to be fair. Absolutely the best voice acted character and arguably has the best written lines. He has Izaro is the actual Chad of the entire game.
Intrigue. I definitely wasn't in love with the labyrinth though. I didn't like how it was an identical trial except for the final boss arena in each ascension difficulty that I progressed through. So yeah, the campaign is long, kinda bloated, and honestly out.
I don't miss the traps though. The amount of times you guys would watch me die in hardcore to the trap system in PoE 1. Don't miss that.
In some areas, but it is also packed with depth, and it taught me as much as I can handle about the game. By the time I reached Act 10 though, I was mentally done. I was still having moments of fun, but my enthusiasm was wearing thin. Still,
True.
I powered through and hit maps, and I'm really glad I did, because what came next finally felt like the game opening up again.
It's over.
Chapter 3, the end
I
of
hit
the
level
game.
80 after about 30 hours playing a home-brewed Sunder Juggernaut, which focused
First
on
time's
physical
not bad.
damage, endurance charges, and AoE, which was balanced defensively through a mixture of my items and passive tree nodes. It honestly
I mean, this is not even that bad. I mean, honestly, this isn't even bad. Like, this is fine. Dude, first time play. Dude, this guy's actually popping off
felt
first time
great,
play.
and I cruised through the campaign up to T6 maps with pretty much no difficulty. I could have kept min-maxing my gear and
Way better than
character
my
to
first
improve
build.
my life, defenses, and damage, but over time, I just lost the desire to. Path of Exile 1's endgame is incredibly complex and content-rich, almost
is.
intimidatingly so. Every map felt unique with its own layouts, mechanics, and encounters. And there are a multitude of various League mechanics and systems to interact with that have been added over its 10-year development process. But all of this content as a new player made PoE 1 feel dense, maybe too dense. It has so many systems and mechanics layered on top of each other. I wasn't sure where to start, and I was worried that I was missing out on something. Some of these League
Well, you were. I'm still missing out on something literally every time I play the game. Because I haven't been playing it for 10 years. Like, yeah, you are missing out. It's the pushing through the missing out that matters. You just have to learn about the things you don't know one piece of one. Just take it a little bite at a time. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you a really bad analogy. You have a nice cake that has all of these different flavors as you eat around the cake. Or you can have one slice of a cake. Having more is better. You just have to eat more of the cake over time. You're not going to eat it all at once. It's fine. In other words, cake.
mechanics and systems even have their own crafting benches, and I had a hard time figuring out the most optimal system for crafting my perfect upgrades. The crafting in PoE 1 is incredibly deep and deterministic. Items can be heavily customized from their original form. Even the standard crafting bench is so reliable for filling in gaps in resistances, defenses, life, adding sockets, or increasing damage.
Yeah.
But with more complexity came confusion. Currency orbs combined with league-specific crafting and multiple benches made crafting a bit overwhelming. I wasn't sure what to use or when. Even
True, dude. Welcome to the game.
beginning to start learning the ropes seemed like a massive time investment. Still, I loved the Atlas progression. Unlocking points via completing maps felt rewarding, and I could tailor my endgame to what I liked. I also loved the scarab drops, which allowed me to further customize my mapping experience.
Yeah, okay. So I like scarabs in theory because of what I mean, and to be honest, in practice. But I just don't like having to pick up and store a million of these fucking shitters. And then every time I decide to like try a new map strategy, I have to like, okay, I need this one, and I need this one, and I need this one, and then put them in. I actually hate scarabs. The problem is there's not really another solution for it. They are a necessary evil, is the way I feel about these. Like you kind of can't get rid of them, and they are better than not having them. They're just kind of annoying to use, but they are better than any other system currently. But yeah, I just picking up a bajillion of these fucking things and then like having to figure out which are the ones to use. There's just too many of these. But yeah, but this is something. I mean, you obviously need these.
By adding different league mechanics that I enjoyed. I also loved that map completion is achieved through boss killing, despite the bosses not even being that enjoyable. After completing the campaign, the Path of Exile endgame feels like you're being dropped into a vast, deep ocean without a life jacket. You're expected to build your own raft while treading water,
Yeah.
And honestly, I just didn't have the energy. The core loop of running maps and farming loot is fun. I can definitely see why players get hooked, and I'm sure I would have if I spent more time there. But for me, the deeper I got, the more I thought about PoE 2's cleaner systems and lower mental overhead. I wasn't quitting because the content was bad. It's honestly quite the opposite. I was just getting exhausted. After playing the game for 30 hours, logging into PoE 1 started to feel like work, and I started recognizing that I needed to put in a lot of work to fully understand and appreciate everything.
Yeah.
I know. It's tough to compare a decade-old game to one that's still in early access. But these comparisons are meaningful. Let's break them down. Surprisingly, the new player experience in Path of Exile 1 was better than expected, but still falls quite short compared to PoE 2. The biggest issue? Information overload. PoE 1 bombards you with mechanics early on and explains very little. League content throughout the campaign, currencies, crafting systems, socket lengths, it all hits you really quickly and with pretty minimal guidance early on.
Yeah.
I can definitely see this being a filter that stops a lot of new players in their tracks before reaching the end game. It almost took me 20 hours of relaxed gameplay to make it through the campaign, despite never playing the game.
That's honestly really not bad. I mean, I know he's got hours in PoE 2, but 20 hours through the campaign, first time on your own build, I think that's way above average.
Game before, I still had my 1,000 hours of PoE 2 knowledge, which helped immensely. This will probably take a new player much longer, if they end up making it through it all. By contrast, PoE 2 actually nails the pacing in my opinion. It introduces mechanics one at a time, just when they become relevant. That thoughtful structure lets players absorb systems naturally, while enjoying the best polished and most narrative-driven campaign in any ARPG that I've ever played. In PoE 1, the campaign feels more like a tutorial sandbox for endgame systems than a standalone experience. Instead of building impactful story moments and boss fights, it interrupts your flow with mechanics that you're not prepared or didn't ask for.
Okay, so the introduction of mechanic systems both does happen in PoE 2 and will continue to happen in PoE 2. They just don't have the mechanics yet. Like, you already see Ritual in the hunting grounds. The new mechanic for every league shows up in literally every zone during the campaign. The difference is we just don't have the mechanics yet. Like, I'm kind of surprised, but there's no, like, breach that shows up in the campaign or expedition, but, you know, there is expedition in the campaign because it's it's integrated into the treasure map, which is a whole side quest portion of it, so it's kind of its own elaborate thing. You do actually have you have your own island. Breach is in Act 4. There's a breach in Act 4? Wait, where the hell do you see breach in Act 4? Have I not ran into a single breach in Act... Delirium? Yeah, you do see Delirium. No, that's Delirium. Yeah, I was going to say... no breach. Delirium, yeah. Delirium's part of the main quest. They're just much smoother of an implementation. So they're doing a better job introducing it. But yeah, the mechanics are still there for sure. No breach yet.
PoE 2 gives you space. You feel guided by the main story quests, but not overwhelmed. And most importantly, in PoE 2, it feels like you're playing a game, not studying for one. Control preference is subjective,
That's fair.
but for me, PoE 2's WASD system is a clear winner here.
The WASD in PoE 2, I thought for sure I wasn't going to enjoy, because I'm so used to point to click, but WASD in PoE 2 is easily the best implementation of WASD I've ever seen in ARPGs, and just feels like pretty much phenomenal. I think the reason primarily for that is they said once they added WASD, that's when the delay of the game release ended up happening for the early access, because they knew that once WASD felt so good that they wanted to go back and sort of redesign moves and stuff with that concept behind it, which is I think that's part of the reason it feels so good. It's like the moves seem to be designed with WASD in mind. So I think that was a really, really good choice to do, because when you look at some of the first footage they have of PoE 2, it looks a lot more like locked in place type of shit, like with the maces with the moves. So this was a good choice to like delay the game in order to get WASD to feel so well, because I would say the WASD is like a primary factor as to why people enjoy the game as much other than fidelity. It's just smooth.
Especially on ranged or caster builds, separating movement from aiming gives much more fluidity and precision. Kiting, dodging, repositioning, it all just feels better. Click to move in PoE 1 has that nostalgic Diablo 2 feel, and once you adapt, it's pretty snappy. But it puts more strain on your mouse hand and gets a bit fatiguing over long sessions. PoE 2's movement feels modern and ergonomic by comparison. One thing that I missed dearly was the dodge roll. In PoE 2, dodge offers a universal, responsive defensive tool that enhances moment-to-moment gameplay. In PoE 1, movement skills do exist, but the lack of that same flexibility or safety net is obvious. Once you felt the freedom of the dodge roll, it's hard not to have that. Overall, PoE 2's movement gives you a bit more options.
I did find myself in PoE 1 like going back and then pretty much immediately forgetting I'm not playing in WASD and trying to dodge roll. It does get integrated into your brain a little bit.
Flexibility, especially for squishy builds. Click to move still works really well for PoE 1's design, but it's harder on the hands and a little less flexible. In my opinion, PoE 2's gem system is a massive improvement.
Yeah.
In PoE 1, skills and support gems are socketed into gear, making it unclear if upgrades are about sockets first and stats second. I passed up on good gear.
It pretty much is all like you have to, you need the links for sure. I'm glad they split up the system.
Repeatedly because I couldn't maintain my socket setup. Chromatic orbs were scarce and experimentation felt punished. Path of Exile 2 fixes this. Skills and supports are separate from gear, letting you swap setups freely without needing to match socket colors. It encourages experimentation, especially for new or SSF players. That being said, PoE 2 still has its quirks, like how it's annoying to have to revisit early acts to grab missed low-level skill gems for certain builds. A gem vendor system like what PoE 1 has that scales with your level would go a very long way here. Passive respecking is another huge contrast. In PoE 1, you're given some
real quick about the gem system. The most reasonable debate I've seen around that is your gems could cut to lower levels. So if you have a tier 19 gem, you can cut 19 and any gem level earlier than that. So that way you don't have to go like farm lower level gems in order to solve man issues, etc. If there's an ability that you just don't want to have the higher level, being able to cut them down to lower levels would make sense to me, and I don't see why that would be an issue balance-wise or anything.
Fun points, and combine more with Orbs of Regret, but changes feel expensive and rigid. I found a great one-handed unique mace early on in my PoE 1 journey, but I had already invested heavily in two-handed nodes. The heavy cost of respecking made it feel unrealistic to even try switching so I could try out this mace. PoE 2 uses gold to respec, and it's relatively abundant. You can
maybe he doesn't know. Well, maybe it was this was 3 months ago, so no, you still have to go to respec then, so you could go to respec. He might not know about it or not have had enough gold at that point.
Pivot your build mid-campaign without completely derailing your progress. That accessibility rewards curiosity and lets players iterate more freely. PoE 1 asks you for commitment.
Large poor Vu.
PoE 2 lets you evolve. Path of Exile 1's campaign progression
this would be more
just
obvious
felt
if
off
he
to
didn't
me.
run into it.
I constantly was over-leveled for zones, steamrolling enemies with a decent weapon, movement skill, and a Quicksilver flask. It was fun for a bit, but over time it started to lack tension or any sort of struggle. Then came the endgame, and the difficulty ramped up hard. Suddenly, I was planning around map mods, resistances, and crafting.
mercenary.
The campaign and the endgame almost felt like two entirely different games. In contrast, Path of Exile 2's progression is slower and more rewarding. You start off weak and slow and feel every upgrade and really earn your power. That pacing creates a sense of meaningful growth, and in my opinion, your character's arc feels like a real journey from Castaway Exile to Demigod throughout the campaign into the endgame seamlessly. PoE 1 feels like you were just supposed to blast through the campaign to get to endgame as quickly as possible so that the real progression of your character could begin. While I didn't explore in depth all that Path of Exile has to offer in terms of crafting, I can safely say that PoE 1 is the clear winner here, but not simply because it has more crafting. While PoE 2 is moving in a promising direction, its systems still feel incomplete. GGG is working to balance determinism while still prioritizing loot on the ground, but it's still not quite there yet. PoE 1's crafting is vast. Essences, beast crafting, bench crafting, various currencies, it all adds up to an intricate, rewarding system
not the
that
harvest.
allows for fine-tuning and long-term planning. Even with just 30 hours, I saw how deep this goes. It's not beginner-friendly, and it can
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many hours you have in it. You still don't understand literally everything. You could be playing the game the whole time, and you're going to have to go ask somebody specifically, like, okay, hey, I'm playing a certain minion glove. I got to go, I need a certain minion craft. I got to go talk to Gazi to make the glove or whatever. Like, you're always going to run into these situations where you need to ask somebody specialized in their knowledge about one particular craft, which I think is a really cool thing.
be overwhelming, but the mastery it offers is undeniable. PoE 2 may one day offer a streamlined but deep alternative, but for now, PoE 1 is the king of crafting. Despite only dipping my toes into PoE 1's endgame, I can tell it's the game's strongest feature. The Atlas system, league content, and endgame specific crafting tools form a massive sandbox of unique.
Well, and the Atlas tree in particular, like the Atlas tree actually adding specialization is just a huge part of it. I think this is also part of the reason maps get boring in PoE 2 is just the Atlas tree itself. There isn't really anything you do on the Atlas tree that feels too special. I mean, you bump up the difficulty and some small bonuses to each one of the mechanics, but there's not really any major decisions being made in here. You get pack size, you get more explicit modifier, you get rarity, etc., and you're just kind of like done.
Encounters and choices. It's content rich and endlessly replayable. Yes, it can be very dense to bite into at first, but even a taste of it made me realize the depth and complexity that PoE 2 could one day achieve. Grinding Gear Games has already improved PoE 2's endgame significantly since its launch in early access, and it's clear they're still iterating on it. If GGG can take PoE 1's decade of endgame design and wrap it in PoE 2's structure and polish without adding too much bloat, we'll end up with something truly special.
I'm just not worried about this. I mean, they were going to have the campaign completed and then launch the game with no in-game, but then they kind of saw what happened with D4 with no in-game, and like, we have to actually have an in-game, so they focused on the in-game first, and I think they said it was only like 3 months or something of time was what ended up with the in-game. And it still was better than most of the other ARPGs. So it's for me, I'm not worried about the in game because they just need time. It's just, it'll be boring for a while and then it'll be good. We'll see what happens with 0.4. I don't think this is a big deal. Most of our issues have to do with, like, it's just basically not done yet on the in-game, because there's maybe a bit of copium, but I don't really see too many, like, major philosophy issues, and they seem to be giving ground on shit like the towers, etc. So my copium is, surely this is fixed.
A game that honors its roots but modernizes its systems for a new generation of players. Jumping into Path of Exile 1 completely blind, armed only with 1,000 hours I've poured into PoE 2, was honestly a way better experience than I expected. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty intimidated going in. PoE 1 has this reputation, this aura of, if you don't follow a build guide, you're gonna break your character and hate your life. And yeah, I definitely saw some of that fear floating around leading up to the 3.26 launch. But once I actually got in and started playing, all of that fear just melted away. This is because nothing really beats that feeling of discovery on your first ARPG playthrough. Learning systems by playing, getting surprised by mechanics, figuring out how to craft items and build your character, that's the real magic. And Path of Exile 1, for all its complexity and quirks, absolutely delivered on that sense of exploration. If you've never tried it, I genuinely recommend giving it a shot. Even if you've only played PoE 2, there's a ton to learn and appreciate here. And it really did help me to appreciate PoE 2 even more. So, do I still prefer PoE 2 overall?
Yes.
100%, for all the reasons I covered earlier in this video. The smoother pacing, cleaner systems, and modern controls. But that doesn't mean I'm done with PoE 1. It's a really, really good ARPG, especially if you've been playing it for a long time. And I fully planned to jump back in from time to time. Probably with a build guide next time, just to see how deep the rabbit hole really goes.
I mean, he did pretty good on his
Which game
build.
do you prefer more? Path of Exile or its sequel? Are you a PoE 2?
PoE 1, better game still. PoE 2, I just purely have more fun with right now.
Andy like myself, who decided to try out the original game for the first time? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, it helps way more than you think, and make sure to subscribe for more PoE 2 content. Also, check out my podcast, where I sit down with a bunch of different PoE 2 creators and discuss the game, life, and everything in between. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
That was
Until
a really good
then,
video.
I'm going back to blast some more PoE 2.
That's a really good
Peace.
video. And actually, we will be on BlazeWorks podcast. He asked me if I'd be able to do that. I'm going to see when exactly he wants to do it. I'll reach out to him. But we're supposed to be on his podcast as well. So give him a follow, and you can check out. They call it the Passive Tree Podcast here also. So yeah, that was kind of interesting because I wanted to see what somebody who's only really played PoE 2 thinks of PoE 1. It was actually a little different than I thought, because I thought he was going to like struggle a bit with the campaign and then get sucked into the in game. But it sounded like the in game itself was kind of the biggest like push away from him that made it hard for him to kind of get sucked into the game too hard. But it was a really good video.